students. For this particular discussion, we'll be discussing about the new topic, and this is about the emotional self. Okay? Weak people revenge, strong people forgive, intelligent people ignore. When you are happy, you enjoy the music. When you are sad, you understand the lyrics. Sometimes it's not the song that makes you emotional. It's the people and things that come to your mind when you hear it. We might be the master of our own thoughts, still we're the slaves of our own emotions. As you can see, the passages that I have read to you pertain to what we call the emotions or feelings. So this particular discussion will focus on the emotional self. At the end of this discussion, you'll be able to discuss the nature and kinds of emotions, identify the physiological reactions to emotions, enumerate ways of controlling and managing emotions, and explain the primary emotional responses to achieve emotional maturity. So I have given you your assignment as a way of a springboard for discussion, and this is about the film Inside Out. Okay, so in the movie you will see the interplay of the different emotions. Okay, so I'll be leaving it out to you as for your assignment, and I won't be discussing it here. So let's go now to the discussion of the fundamentals of emotion, zooming into Plutchik's wheel of emotion. Can you guess how many emotions a human can experience, or a human being can experience? Well, according to study, it's around 34,000 emotions. With this so many emotions, how can we, or how can a person navigate through these myriad waters of feelings without getting lost? Imagine 34,000 emotions. Okay? The answer is with an emotional wheel. So this particular slide will give you the illustration of the wheel that I'll be discussing. Okay? So the wheel is represented as a cone. Okay? It's conical. Kaya lamang I have given you an illustration of a what you call this, a dissected cone, so that you can see the different components of the emotional wheel. So psychologist Robert Plutchik states that there are basically 8 emotions. You have the joy, the trust, the fear, the surprise, the sadness, anticipation, anger, and disgust. Okay, so if you will refer it in your illustration, you can see it from I'll be showing it to you. So these are the 8 basic emotions. Okay, so again, we're referring to joy, the trust, the fear, the surprise, the sadness, the anticipation, the anger, and disgust. So Plutchik's wheel of emotions illustrates these 8 basic emotions and the various ways they relate to one another, including which ones are opposites and which ones can easily turn into another one. Okay? So this framework helps bring clarity to emotions which can sometimes feel mysterious and overwhelming. Kaya nga tayo, pagka nakakakita tayo ng isang individual na malungkot or sometimes madaling maapektuhan ng mga pangyayari, we always tell them as napaka-emotional. Okay? But you have to understand na hindi lamang sila ang emotional, maging kahit sino emotional. With these 34,000 different emotions, I guess nobody wala tayong pwedeng sabihin na hindi emotional. Okay? So this particular wheel of emotions will give us the clear discussion kung paano ba itong different basic emotions na to ay nadidevelop into another emotion, easily turn into another one. Okay? At ano ang opposite ng bawat emotions na ito. So let's have the basic interpretation. Okay, so that when you can see the Plutchik's wheel of emotions, you can easily interpret it. Okay, first that you have to understand in interpretation of Plutchik's wheel of emotions is about the primary. Ito yung binanggit natin kanina that we have the primary. These are the 8 sectors which are designed to indicate that there are 8 primary emotions. Again, these are anger, anticipation, joy, the trust, fear, surprise, sadness, and disgust. Okay? So, each primary emotion, dapat naman nating maintindihan, meron tayong tinatawag na opposites. Okay? So, each primary emotion has a polar opposite. So that joy is the opposite of sadness. Okay? So, if you are to locate it in Plutchik's wheel of emotion, so opposite ng joy, you can find the sadness. If this is the joy, here is the sadness. How about the fear? The fear is the opposite of anger. Okay? And then anticipation is the opposite of surprise. And disgust is the opposite of trust. Okay? So, may two primary or 2 indicators tayo na dapat nating maintindihan with the wheel of emotions. Number 1, sa primary, tandaan natin that we have the 8 primary emotions. And for every primary emotion, meron tayong tinatawag na polar opposite. Kaya yan tinatawag nating opposites. Okay? Okay. So, aside from the primary, you have also the opposites. Meron naman tayong tinatawag na combinations. Okay? So, as you can see from the wheel of emotion, there are portions in the wheel which are colorless. So, the emotions with no color represent an emotion that is a mix of the 2 primary emotions. For example, when we speak about anticipation, okay, this one, so the anticipation and joy, the mixture of anticipation and joy, okay, when they are combined, brings forth optimism. Okay? Joy and trust will bring forth, or when combined, will bring forth love. Emotions, okay, are often complex, and being able to recognize when a feeling is actually a combination of 2 or more distinct feelings, and that is a helpful skill. Okay? So you have to understand that those emotions, okay, which are colorless, those are products of the mixture of the primary emotions. Okay? So that when you have the anger combined with anticipation, that leads to aggressiveness. Disgust and anger, you bring forth contempt. Sadness and disgust bring forth remorse, so on and so forth. Okay? So, those are what we term as the combinations. Okay? So, madali lamang naman yan. Okay? So, ulitin natin. You have, unang-una, you have to understand in the analysis or the interpretation of Plutchik's wheel of emotion. Una muna, meron tayong 8 primary emotions. Ayan. And each primary emotion has its polar opposites. Kaya meron tayong tinatawag na opposites. And then, as you can notice from the illustration, we have those emotions, we have no color, and those are products of the 2 primary emotions. Okay, so that anger and anticipation bring forth aggressiveness, anticipation and joy bring forth optimism, joy and trust bring forth love. When trust and fear combine, it brings submission, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, you have primary, you have opposites, and you have combinations. Next one's about intensity. So, kung titingnan natin, so nagkakaroon tayo ng intensity of color coming from the outside of the circle or the wheel going into the inner portion. So, kung papansin ninyo, ay nag-intensify ang color natin dyan. So, the cone, remember, the wheel is represented as a cone, and the cone's vertical dimension represents intensity. So, kung titingnan niyo, so yung outermost layer dito sa wheel na natin pinapakita, yun yung nasa pinaka dulo ng ating conical structure. So, the cone's vertical dimension represents intensity. Emotions intensify as they move from the outside to the center of the wheel. From the outside to the center of the wheel, which is also indicated by the color. Okay? So, the darker the shade, the more intense the emotion. So, as you can see, na nakikita natin dito na yung ating darker shade coming from the outside going to the inside, okay? Or the shade of the color ay nag-intensify yan. So, lighter going to the inside, nagiging darker ang color natin. So, again, the darker the shade, the more intense the emotion. For example, let's look on the example of anger. Okay? So, the anger being a primary emotion at its least level of intensity is just annoyance. Okay? Ano ba Tagalog ang annoyance? Parang naiirita ka lamang. Kaya lamang, pagka yung irritation, the annoyance intensifies, that becomes anger. And when the anger intensifies, that becomes now rage. Okay? Di ba napaka-intensify nung aspect ng rage. Okay? So when the storm rages, medyo malakas na ang signal na yon. Okay? So at its highest level of intensity, anger becomes rage, or going into a feeling of boredom. Okay? That is coming from the outside. Boredom can intensify to loathing, okay, if left unchecked, which is dark purple. Okay? So, yun namang apprehension natin, okay, looking into the intensity illustration, you have apprehension, nagdadalawang isip ka, and when it intensifies, it develops into fear. And then, yung highest form ng fear, as the wheel suggests, it's called the terror. Okay? So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng intensity ng colors natin dito sa wheel of emotion. So, this is an important rule about emotions that you should be aware of the relationships. Okay? Why? Because if left unchecked, emotions can intensify. Okay? So, dito daw po ang pasok yung wisdom natin of enhancing your emotional vocabulary. So, students, the knowledge of the wheel of emotions can help you handle your emotions well. Again, pagka daw hindi na-handle natin ng tama ang emotions, okay, if they are left unchecked, the emotions can intensify. Okay? So, it's the enhancing your emotional vocabulary will serve as the bedrock of effectively navigating emotions. Okay? So, Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions helps us look at literacy through a broader lens. Okay? When we speak of literacy, di ba pagka sinabi nating literacy, it means a person's knowledge of a particular subject or field. When you are said to be literate on a particular topic, it means that you have a knowledge of that particular topic. So, enhancing emotional literacy means not only having words for emotions, but understanding how the different emotions are related to one another and how they tend to intensify over time. Okay? So, yun ang dapat nating tandaan dito. So, with this basic knowledge of the wheel of emotion will enhance our emotional vocabulary. So, enhancing emotional vocabulary will lead to an enhanced emotional literacy. So, increased or enhanced emotional literacy, it means that we can identify well, we can handle well our emotions. And with that, we can say that it can help to an individual to understand the emotions going through within the person.